Welcome back to Advice with Prince. Today's guest, I've known him for 24 years, and guess what? I'm 24 though. I've known him my whole life. Welcome, Michael Sanford. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah, man. I've known your family since before you were born.
I know. That's a long time. that half, that like a quarter of a decade. Oh no, actually longer than that. It's longer than that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's quite.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
That's so Michael was one of my sister's like best friends. So Michael will always be at the house on the couch, singing and whatnot, talking. They were always singing. He sung in the choir. Sorry, that's my sister. So yeah, I've known Mike for a long time. So we go back. And actually,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Mike, how did Mumford prepare you for college?
Well, like, it's funny that you would even ask that, because my wife and I, we were just talking about that. Like, while I feel like coming from a place like Detroit that's so rich in history and, just you think of everything that's associated with being from Detroit, it's just so rich in history. You would think that it would prepare you for a place like that, but what I found is that while I had this great sense of pride of being from a place like Detroit, as far as the education system, it did not prepare me to compete on that level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely provided me the resilience and the fight to go to a place like Michigan State and compete, as far as engaging in the education. But as far as the educational system itself, it was kind of hard. And what I found was that a lot of times, my experience, I should say, was that being in a place like Michigan State, I realized even if you went to the best, like urban, typically Black, if you came from that environment, that educational system, you often found it more difficult to compete, even with your white counterparts that came from marginal school systems. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's Detroit. You really have to kind of make your own path here. Like, if you want to go somewhere, you're gonna just have to like go straight through and be like, hey, this is me. Here I am. Let's do it. Cause not saying that Detroit is
absolutely
a hard city to be from. Cause it's an honor to be from the D. Like, Motown here. We got a whole lot of stuff here.
Absolutely.
Ford. So it's an honor, but it's a tough city. People say New York and Atlanta. I mean, New York and LA and Chicago are tough, but Detroit, people don't care who you are. You can have millions. Like, okay, you still right. You. So yeah. So I get what you're saying.
And the thing, like what you said, it really is like there's this level of, especially as a Detroiter, I feel like, because like now, my wife and I, and our son, my family, we've moved out of the state, and we really take pride in the fact that we're from Detroit. We take pride in the rich heritage of Detroit. We take, a lot of pride, and find a lot of personal definition in, how the city and the people kind of made us, cultivated us. It's characteristics about us that to the day we die are just fixed, permanent, you know what I'm saying, fixtures of our personality, simply because we are from a place that's so rich in history and so rich in tradition and so rich in heritage as Detroit. So, I wouldn't change that for $1 million. I wouldn't change any part of my story for $1 million. But, exactly what when you asked that question, exactly what you said there, the things that I didn't learn, and then I guess this is the trade-off. The things that I didn't learn in the classroom, I feel like coming from a place like Detroit taught me, like, from the school of the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, the tenacity, the resilience, the drive, the motivation to forge my own path and to stick with it. Everybody don't get that. So.
Oh no, they don't. They don't. People, people sometimes they can disregard where they come from and not really value all that they learn. By being here, but it adds to your character, and it gives you a little more swag.
Absolutely.
To you to be a little more resilient. And also, you might not want to get into it with somebody on the day, depending on what area they grew up in. That might not be good for you. But you actually went up to Lansing, and so
right.
How was that? How was MSU? And because college is where you find yourself, basically.
And that's exactly what happened. I found myself. That's exactly what happened. I found myself. I feel like one of the best decisions, there are like a handful of decisions that I always say were the absolute best decisions of my life. Marrying my wife, the best decision of my life. Of course, giving my life to Christ, best decision of my life personally. But Michigan State was definitely is up there on that list, like one of the best decisions of my life. I feel like everything that happened was needed. That intense culture shock. Man, when I went to Michigan State, I thought I was used to being kind of like Mike, the guy that, a lot of people like. I thought that I would do well in any situation, drop me off in any situation or whatnot. And what I realized is that while Detroit is such a big piece of Michigan, it's a lot of things that are like, as far as the culture, is just like confined to Detroit. And so when I got there, there was a lot of culture shock that I experienced because, there were just certain things that growing up or even as a teenager, becoming a man, I figured I understood. There was a lot of stuff about myself that I thought I knew, I thought I understood. You kind of go with like, this is what I like and this is what I don't like and this is concrete, it doesn't change. And so you get to Michigan State and a lot of things challenge your personality. A lot of stuff challenges what you said, defined you before, and then you realize like that I actually take no definition in this, you know what I mean? So going to Michigan State, it was such a good experience because it challenged me. It challenged me more than that. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, academically is like such a small portion of what it challenged. I feel like, yes, I was stretched, as a scholar per se, I was stretched. But I think more than anything, as a person of faith, as a Black man, I was challenged on so many levels, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so happy for that time because it really has made me the person. It created the person who's sitting on this phone talking to you, or internet.
Internet. But yeah, like, and then like you said, being black too, that it really, I'm not gonna say that it makes it harder, but it it elevates the level of tenac- tenac- tenacity that you have to have, and like you have to carry yourself a certain way because they see you and you 6'2", I think, right? You see, how tall are you, Mike? You tall, right? Pretty tall.
Yep.
6'2".
Oh, I'm 6'4".
6'4".
Yeah.
Cause I'm like Mike tall, but they see this 6'4" male black dude.
Yeah.
They be like, oh, okay. I don't know about him, but and so that is what they see from the outside.
Yeah.
Of course, knowing you're a very, very sweet person, but people go off looks, and so I'm sure that was kind of hard for you a little
Right.
bit, and just being like, yo, I'm just Mike. Like, I'm not trying to rob you. I'm not trying to, harass nobody.
Right.
I'm just Michael.
Right. To your point about just physicality and physical appearance, it's crazy because so going through Michigan State, that was, like I said, a huge culture shock, and people always misread me. They saw tall black guy. At the time I was much skinnier than I am now, but I felt that. I felt a lot of times, things were motivated by physicality, and I honestly believe that, like, not just the race issue, because we know, like, as black men, we know that's always gonna come up. Even when it doesn't come up, it comes up.
Yeah.
But I would say being a big black guy, that big black, throwing that word big, it changes, it shifts dynamics so much. And I can even tell you, so after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I stayed up there working for the state of Michigan for a number of years. And that was probably the biggest thing I encountered. And again, I wouldn't change any of it for $1 billion. I would not. I love my height. I love my skin. Like, you know what I mean? But I do identify that there were a lot of situations, even with the job. I'll never forget a supervisor of mine, older white lady, she looked at me and she even said, she was like, well, because I did work with children. She said, a lot of kids might be scared because you're so big and, black man with a deep voice. And I think it flew out of her mouth before she got, yes, directly said that. And, at that moment, I had to use wisdom because, I could have, she was my supervisor. I could have told her what I wanted to and, been unemployed then. But, I enjoyed my job and I wanted to keep it. And I felt that there was a way for me to address the issue while preserving my dignity, while keeping my job. So, and we had a conversation that I expressed to her how it bothered me, and I was just saying that typically, like, I understood what she was trying to say, which was true. I was doing work with children, and especially my voice being the big thing, because I remember even with black children, when I would talk, sometimes they felt like I was being a disciplinarian when it's just, so I had to train myself how to, when I'm talking to children, kind of soften my voice or approach it differently, or, allow my body language to be even more disarming, which sometimes is a chore, and that's a whole nother story. But so, yeah, no, exactly what you're saying. Being my physicality definitely has played a role in how a lot of times, people approach me or whatever.
Yeah, and you can't do nothing about that. So that just, like I said, you might. You can't change your skin color, your body weight. You can, but that's a whole nother discussion, brother, that we ain't gonna get into. But they 18, and how was that for you?
Yeah.
Of course, the early, 18 to early 20s, you were out there dating and trying to find someone who would suit you well. So how was that for you?
Is I always laugh when people ask questions about like dating for me, because when I say my story is unique, it is completely unique. I mean, I married my high school sweetheart, and for the most part, we have some friends that say y'all were born married, and I mean that's kind of how it was. Like, we both had, like we dated before we got together or whatnot, and so I mean, we've been in, dating in that regard, but we were kids. As adults, it's really been us. But even navigating that, I feel like a lot of time was an added layer that a lot of, my counterparts, like my friends, they weren't experiencing because they were single, you know what I mean? So I feel like each had its own set of, struggles and had its own tensions or whatnot. But, for the most part, what I will say, it was difficult in the sense that we both were changing so much as individuals, as adults and as individuals, and I laugh now, even to this day, like we're constantly changing. My wife is like, you couldn't have told me, when we first started dating at 15, 16, that I would eventually marry someone that has piercings or a tattoo. Because when I was when I tell you, I was like so rigid as far as like my foundation in the church. I ain't believe in like earrings, like how I have earrings now. No, and she was kind of in that same boat. So like now, the fact that I have a tattoo or a couple tattoos actually, and the fact that I have my ears pierced, it's like, even though it's small to other people, because I know other folks are like, that ain't nothing. But for us, going into it, and like you said, during those years, you're really trying to find yourself and, so much. So the fact that we've been able to kind of bend with each other and be flexible and allow each other to become the people that they want to become, like not necessarily the person I want you to be, but allowing my wife to become the woman that she wants to become, and her allowing me to become the man that I want to become. That's really what made it work. And honestly, I feel like even though I was young and dumb and didn't know, the thing I did get right was her. So I was able to see that early on, that it's like, she loves me, whoever that is. Like she doesn't love me because of how I am. She loves me because of who I am, and vice versa. So that really opens the door for us to allow each other to become because whoever you decide to become, I'm gonna love that person. I'm gonna be there. Like I'm gonna be with you in that journey. So yeah. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it did. So what would you say to these 16, 17-year-olds who think that dating is gonna be just a walk in the park and they're gonna find somebody and build a picket fence and have 2 kids and a nice car and a house? Talk to them.
No, you know what's funny? Okay, so provided, because I wholeheartedly agree with you. And what is funny is that people would look at me and assume that I'm like this advocate for people, finding somebody soon and getting married early. But I tell you, even again, I would not change a single thing about my own journey. But my wife and I, we actually, like, we laugh because, like, even now, like, as we pastor here, a lot of young adults, we kind of encourage them to, I don't want to say not get married early, but, and this is, I'm jumping to marriage, but what I would tell them is really get committed to discovering who you are, because this is the thing. You may feel like at 16, 17 that you love somebody, and you may genuinely love them. Hear what I'm saying? You may genuinely love them, but you love them as the person you are in this moment. You get what I'm saying? And when both of you are kind of developing and you really don't know, like that was the thing, like, and I always say it's nothing but God. I am so thankful to God that my wife and I, we have been able to navigate, you know, these different iterations of who we are and, you know, kind of navigate the whole, the changes that we've gone through. But the thing about it is, if you don't have to kind of put yourself, because if you don't have to put yourself in that situation as a youngster, and you're not harassing yourself with this idea of, I need to get married or I need to, you know, settle down, don't. And the reason I say that is it's so much easier navigating those changes, navigating and explore that exploration, because that's really what it is. Being able to explore this stuff when it's just you. You get what I'm saying? Instead of constantly considering someone else. Plus, the other thing is you want to bring your best. There have been seasons in me and my wife's life that we have not brought our best to one another because we were still trying to figure out what that was for us. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And so by the time you get into a relationship with somebody, you want, ideally, and don't get me wrong, because I believe in like our situation. Like my sister, she married her high school sweetheart. They broke up for a number of years. And I mean, there were times for me and my wife, you know, when we were dating, we, you know, take these, but for the most part, you know, I do believe in that. I believe that people can find their, you know, they can marry their high school sweethearts and they can marry, you know, or get into very meaningful relationships with individuals that they've been with for a very long time. But what I will say to 16 and 17-year-olds is there is so much life that you want to live, and it's literally a luxury. It is a luxury. And I mean, even from a faith-based side, there's a luxury to being single that you don't have when you're in a relationship, when you don't obligate yourself. So I encourage people, you know, definitely date, definitely build meaningful relationships. And if you find somebody that you feel like, look, I can see myself with you forever, allow space, create space for that person to become whoever they want to be. And before you commit and say, I do, if they start changing, if they start changing or you start changing, it's okay. You still have so much life to live. Go and live it. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
That was a long answer, but
no, that was perfect. And you know, the next topic is going to marriage, but to your point, I think that, you know, a lot of times somebody 15, 16, 17, they don't have bills. They don't have the stuff that kind of the stuff that would that will make you grow apart and start to hate you. Plus the person you ain't got all that. You still at home. You're not paying for your own car. You may not even have a car.
Exactly.
You're not paying your phone bill. So it's different when you got rent and stuff, and this person is doing this, and you're like, I ain't got time for that, cause I gotta do A, B, and C. So I think once, and so I tell them, you know, of course you don't want to break these kids' heart. So I'm like, well, look, if it happens for you, that's good, but just in case, you know, remember, like, if you still young and there's a lot that you ain't went through yet. And so I think the older they get, the more they get it, and that's just how I was, because I turned 18 and I'm like, okay, I'm about to get my own place. I got some money, you know, sorry to die. So I was going through my own little mental breakdown that I had no idea that I was going through until one day I'm like, oh, I got no money. And then I realized, okay, well, you just took a year, but you weren't really there. and so you had to find yourself, and really, and I had a whole lot of people around me that just didn't need to be around, and so, and like now looking back to like 5 years ago, I'm like, ooh, you were stupid, ooh, but like you see it. I was. I'm being real. But I'm so glad that I did what I did though, because it taught me.
But that's growth. I feel like that's the essence of growth.
For you, I know marriage is very, very important and very sacred. And so, can you talk a little bit about marriage and how you got into it and how that is for you?
Yeah. You said you want an Oprah stand. Look, if you find the Oprah, I ain't mad at it. Go ahead, because I feel like Stedman playing chess on us. But anyway, no, honestly, I feel like, yeah, to me, marriage is even when I did it, very important. It wasn't to be taken lightly. To this day, it's not to be taken lightly. It's very important. And, I know there are a lot of people that kind of feel, that same way as what you were saying, just kind of, they're not sure if there's just one person out there for them, or they're not sure if they want to, settle down. And, for a lot of people, especially folks with money, it's the idea of like, I got what I got. I'm not trying to, split it or give it away or whatever. But what I will say, I have so many different feelings about it. One, I feel like the person, there is a person that if they come into your life will change that about you. And even when I look at, and this is of course from the outside looking in, I'm not sure, but, and even in more recent times, I feel like in interviews, I've heard Oprah be a little more candid about her relationship and share. The woman's in a committed relationship. I would personally be surprised if they not legally married, but they just telling everybody else. Because she don't like to tell her business, essentially, is, what I'm hearing her say more recently. But she's like, she feels like she's in, a relationship that's just as connected as any marriage, and, they're committed to one another, blah, 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 blah. For me, my faith plays a huge role in that, which I personally don't section my faith as a piece of my life. I feel like every aspect of my life intersects with my faith. So at the core of everything, my faith, it's the foundation. In some areas I'm still working on, you know what I mean? But at the foundation of it is my faith. And so for me, it was important. I knew early on that my wife was definitely the person that I wanted to spend my life with. I knew very early on that I was in love with her. And what I found in her, I personally, I had never seen it in anyone else, and I wasn't willing to risk, losing her to try to find it in other people. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like a lot of times people, like I have a good friend now who was recently in a relationship, and everybody around him like, you crazy, why would you, but my friend truly believes that, what they had in this one person wasn't unique. It wasn't, it was trivial to them. Like, oh, I can find this in anybody. And so they were willing to, step away from it, which, I mean, to each his own. But for me, and I feel like I've done a good job, because I've still, the person that my wife is, even though, especially in this quarantine, we've been close to wrestling a few times. No, I'm playing. But no, seriously, when I look at her, I feel like at the end of the day, what I see and what I saw in her is what I still see in her. And I feel like I made the best decision. And I feel like when you consider marriage, that's the thing you have to consider. When you look at a person, it goes so far beyond love. And I know that sounds really sterile and emotionless, but it's the truth. Like, marriage is so far beyond I just love this person, because
Mm-hmm.
you can literally, like, you can make, I don't want to say you can make yourself, but you can fall in love with so many aspects of something that it feels like you love this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or this person, I should say. And I just feel like a lot of times people, when they get married for that, it's so, that's short-sighted. I remember when my sister got engaged and she was asking me all these questions, and, you know, in my mind, nobody's good enough for my sister. So I'm like super protective. Like, I'm just a very protective person of anyone that I love.
Oh yeah.
And so I was, I'm talking to her and I said, answer this question for me. Is this the person that you are willing to go through hell? Like, you are willing to suffer life's absolute worst with and still be okay because you're with them?
Yeah.
And she was like, I gotta think about that. And, you know, of course, ultimately her answer was yes. And I mean, her and her husband, they've been married for some years now, and they have 2 beautiful children. But my point in asking her that, and this is what I say to anybody, when you're married, marriage will pull on every insecurity that you have.
Mm.
No stone that you have will be left unturned in marriage.
Mm.
And so, you know, if you're with somebody that you only like them when y'all got money in the bank, bills are paid, and think, you know, your career popping, their career popping, and everything you guys agree on is working out, if that's the only time you are in love or wanting to be married, then don't get married. Because what I will tell you is, there will be times when crap hits the fan, I'll say it in that way.
Mm.
And you, like, it's gonna be times when you're not necessarily like so excited about what y'all going through.
Yeah.
But what I can say is, even at my worst, I'd rather go through it with my wife, because she really is my best friend. So I'd rather go through it with her than some other person, because I guess I could never see myself at this point. You know, we don't have a lot, but what we do have and what we work together to build together, I don't see myself with somebody else trying to do that. And that's, so that, to me, that's what I say with people. And so when you even talk about marriage, that is something to aspire to. You want to have that. You want to have a rider. You want to have somebody that's beyond, you know what I'm saying, your friend that you could just pick up the phone. Like, somebody who takes your life as their own and vice versa. So it's like, when stuff not going right for you, it's not going right for us. Like, marriage affords you that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. It's 2 people becoming one, and I think a lot of times, well, you know what? A whole lot of times, what I see now, which is very, very common, and I'm sure you're gonna have a whole lot to say about this. I see a lot of people getting married for the benefits that marriage brings to you. Does that make sense? And so, and that's,
no, that makes perfect sense.
And that's probably one of the reasons why, when it comes to me, I'm like, if I did get married, I'm not gonna lie to you. It'd be a long ass putting up, and I'm just being honest, okay? Like, you trying to marry me, you have your own house, your own business, because you're not taking nothing. you're not walking out here with nothing, okay? You're not walking out here with nothing. But
I think it's absolutely real, and I feel like what you're saying, you know what I mean, is not far-fetched. You don't sound crazy. I feel like a whole lot of people, you know, they get married because, like you said, either they get married for the benefits of being married, which, I mean, in real life, what many people don't make decisions because of the hardships. Like, you don't go into it like, man, I'm gonna suffer. Yeah, I think I really want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. And I use the word suffer, but just go through, or there are going to be a lot of ups and downs or whatever. Like, we don't know the future, but so of course I get it. But one, I wholeheartedly think, what you were saying, you've worked so hard to establish yourself as an author, entrepreneur, a writer, playwright. Like, it's so many, you've invested so much at only 20. Listen, because I got married at 23 and I wasn't popping like you pop. Let's just, I was in school trying to pop. So, but you know what I mean? So I get, you said what?
No, wait.
Hold on, it's a lot.
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. We're doing okay over here.
When we catch up, you like, every time I talk to you, you like, man, I went all the way across the country to see this play because, I got an idea and or, I follow Tyler Perry, or like, you're able to tell me these investments that you're making in yourself that a lot of people, especially in their early 20s, are not making or unwilling to make. So I get when you say, man, by the time I get married, I want a prenup, because I've worked, and I feel like to a lot of people that prenup idea is like a curse word. Like, don't you say, if you love me, you wouldn't put, no. My wife and I, we laugh all the time. We were like, we got together while we were broke. So when we, like, anything we get, we got together. So yeah, it's like, ain't no prenup ever gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care who, if tomorrow I strike it rich, that's ours. If she strike it rich tomorrow, that's ours, because we started out, like, we knew we married each other because we was in love and broke together, But, if you are coming into a situation and you have stuff and you've been working on stuff, it only makes sense. And I don't think that it should be offensive to say, look, as we go into, and a lot of times it's not even about, because I think we're not gonna last, but it's just, in the event something happens, you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure that you're taken care of, our assets are covered. So yeah, I don't think you're crazy for that. I think that at 18, you're way too young, in my opinion. Again, I got married at 23, and I think that's young. Now to look back, I'm like, man, I knew, because I was young. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I encourage people to live. Definitely live your life before you get married.
Yes. That's the big thing. Like, right now, like you said, like, I can come and go as I please. And I'm busy a lot of times. So, being single is such a great thing. And of course, sometimes, like, well, I'm kind of lonely. I don't want to find somebody until I see somebody. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to be with you. So we go back and forth on wanting somebody. But yeah, I think the whole prenup, because when I was talking to Charlie's girls, and so one, because we watched the Tyler Perry movie, A Fall from Grace. I don't know if you saw that, but basically,
okay.
Or was it actually?
Yeah, I saw it.
But the whole prenup idea came to play, and so one of my nieces, she was dead against it, but the other one was like, no, a prenup is cool, and the one that was against it was like, well, if you want to marry me, then you're gonna marry me for love, and we don't need no prenup. I'm like, a prenup had nothing to do with love or that kind of relationship. A prenup was just protection. There's like, I tell y'all,
that's it.
You protect them whenever y'all start doing stuff. That it's just a a safety, that you have.
Precaution.
Yeah, a precaution. Not saying that I don't love you, not saying that I don't see myself being with you forever, but life happens, okay? Okay, so we are going to do a part 2. So, keep tuning in to part 2. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Passion, romance, sex, sin, pain, and death. Love unexpected. When you think you know your partner, think again.